cooperate with ICE. Joining me now is Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin, member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Senator, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Let's just take a look at some of the worst of the worst. Some of the characters that were released back onto the streets of Louisiana, the streets of New Orleans. These are indeed the worst of the worst. They were wanted for, I'm just going to read out some of their rap sheets: aggravated assault, child endangerment, aggravated battery, domestic abuse, and aggravated assault, grand theft auto, indecent behavior with juveniles under 17, armed robbery, third-degree rape, armed battery, sexual battery, domestic child abuse and child endangerment, and armed robbery. I mean, these are the people that, for some reason, the people in charge of New Orleans feel quite comfortable about releasing to the streets.
Well, David, it's not just the people of New Orleans. It's the Democrat-ran blue cities that are doing this. And keep in mind, the Democrats always want to scream that, we're anti-immigrant. We're not anti-immigrant. In fact, we want immigrants to come over here in a lawful way. Most of these immigrants that do come to the United States, they're leaving a third world country that doesn't enforce the rule of law. What separates us from a third world country is the fact that we do have laws and we are a nation of laws. When you become a lawless nation, you lose your country. And so these Democrats that are screaming that, that they want to defund the police, or that they want to have zero bail set for these criminals and release them back on the streets, that they want to close our jails, that you start going, are you really anti-police or anti-America? Because people want to come here because of what we offer them. We offer safety. We offer opportunity for them. And what President Trump is doing is restoring that to the streets, even if the Democrats that run them aren't willing to do it, because President made a promise to the American people that he was going to restore law and order, and this is exactly what he's doing.
But, Senator, the problem is the law is interpreted by different people in different ways. And you have these judges, and there is a federal consent decree out that is confusing the parish police because they don't understand which one. The federal consent decree says essentially that the police are not allowed to cooperate with ICE. This is in New Orleans. So who's standing in the way of letting ICE do the right things? Is it the judges that are putting out these decrees?
It's 100% the judges, but it's the mayor. It's the city council that's putting that stuff out. But the judges have the ability to uphold the Constitution. And these immigrants are actually these illegal aliens that came over here illegally. They're a federal fugitive, not to mention the crimes that they broke when they came here. But they're not a state fugitive. They're federal. They broke federal law. And federal law does trump state law when it comes to enforcing the laws of the nation.
That's what I was told, but then you have these federal decrees out there, and it's just a big mess. But the big question is ICE still winning the battle of getting these miscreants off the street?
Let me tell you what ICE is doing. ICE isn't just getting the illegals off the streets, these criminals off the streets. They're also breaking down drug rings. And so you see what's happening with these narco boats. You see what's happening with President Trump naming 24 cartels as terrorist organizations. That's just one part of restoring law and order to our streets, too, because at the same time, ICE and DHS is breaking up these smuggling rings, human trafficking smuggling rings, drug trafficking rings, and it's a full court press, because let me tell you, cartels know what cities they can operate openly in, and if you see it, you can almost guarantee it's being ran by a blue city mayor that's a Democrat. And so it's DHS, it's ICE that's restoring law and order by have a full frontal approach by working with President Trump and his administration by bringing law and order back to our streets that Washington, D.C. failed underneath the Biden administration to do.
Well, as bad as these miscreants are, not just the folks on the street that have been let out by sanctuary cities, but also these Venezuelan drug and human smugglers that are out there, which are essentially working as terrorists for the nation of Venezuela, such as it is. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth spoke to the point of these folks, the folks who are trying to defend the drug smugglers. Listen.
We've only just begun striking narco boats and putting narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean because they've been poisoning the American people. And Joe Biden tried to approach it with kid gloves. and allow them to come across the border. Cartels take over community, 20 million people, hundreds of thousands of Americans poisoned. And President Trump said, no, we're taking the gloves off. We're taking the fight to these designated terror organizations, and that's exactly what we're doing.
But members of Congress were out there. You know this very well. Last week, they put out this tape about how people in the military who were going after the drug dealers should question whether or not they're following legal laws before they are given their orders. And they wouldn't say openly that this was dealing with the Venezuelan issue, but it's clear that's one of the things that they were referring to, no?
Well, but these are the same Democrats that put us in the situation we are right now. This is why they were voted out of office last November and put President Trump and the Republicans in charge, because people were tired of the approach, this I don't know, soft on crime, or actually no attention to crime. No one can do any harm and it's the police's fault mentality. What President Trump is doing is he's being proactive on this, and thank God he's being proactive on this. You know, think about this, just the numbers. In 2024, there was over 66,500 individuals died on our streets from this poison that these cartels are bringing in. The entire Vietnam War, right, there was just over 56,000 casualties. So you think about this. In 1 year, we've lost more from these cartels that are now designated terrorist organizations than we did the entire Vietnam War. So thank God that President Trump is doing a full press approach, because everybody listening to this, including your producer and those that are helping you film this show right now, have been affected by this drug crisis we have in our streets, because it's affected our families, it's affected our friends, it's affected our neighborhoods, it's affected our towns, it's affected our kids' schools. And we need to do something. Standing back doesn't work. President Reagan was the last president to be proactive by going after these cartels going into Central and South America. And now we got President Trump that's taking the fight back to him again.
Senator, very quickly, I just got to point out that the fingers are beginning to point at Admiral Mitch Bradley. He's the guy who essentially gave the order for a second strike against one of these drug boats that is being called into question. Some people even use the word war crime or the phrase war crime. This guy's a Navy Academy grad. He is a SEAL Team 6 alum. If you know anything about SEALs just in general, let alone SEAL Team 6, and this is a guy who kept volunteering for operations after 9/11 overseas as a Navy SEAL. I put my faith behind somebody like that, not sideline critics in Congress.
Well, the Admiral's an absolute stud. That's all I would say. He's a stud, and I support his decision. And I would go to battle with that man any single time. His decisions are spot on. He's been there, and for these Democrat senators and representatives to go out there and try to sow dissent inside our men and women, when you have somebody like that, that's a true hero, that's leading our young men and women into the fight each day to keep us safe on our streets, then I'll take his word over theirs any day of the week.
I'm with you on that. Senator Mark Wayne Mullin, great to see you, Senator. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it.